I used to get pretty regular panic attacks. I remember being about 5 years old the first time. It wasn't like some panic attacks where people can't breathe and end up in the hospital. It wasn't that severe. But it was the kind of panic attack that would cause this feeling of intense fear, and it would just cause me to weep and weep and weep until I could get rid of the thought. The thought that caused anxiety was around death. But it wasn't anxiety about pain or the death itself. It wasn't anxiety about hell and an eternal punishment. Somehow, already at a very young age, I had a very deep faith, a confidence in God and His mercy through the church. The thought that caused anxiety, these little panic attacks, was the thought of heaven. It was somehow the thought of not having time. Here on earth, I know things kind of come to an end. There's like a goal. Things kind of come to completion. We kind of move on, the good and the bad. And there's something that gives security there. And just the thought of unending time, somehow that just totally tossed me into a panic. No matter how good people talked about heaven, it wouldn't help me overcome that anxiety. It was the thought of heaven just being so totally different. I have a communion of people, a circle of family and friends that I'm comfortable with. And the thought that heaven is going to broaden that beyond measure is terrifying. Those panic attacks came periodically throughout my life and into adulthood. It probably was only a couple years ago, as a priest, the last time I had one of those episodes of weeping out of the fear of heaven. Friends, is Jesus alive? Has He risen from the dead? He has, and it is not a nice, cozy, pretty thing. Last week, we celebrated the Feast of All Saints. I guess it's not really God bless you. It's not, I'm a loud sneezer, so my heart goes out to you. All Souls Day, I want to mention. I guess it's more of a commemoration, not so much a feast. It's a strange day for me as a priest, because I have a deep, deep confidence in the hope of God's mercy, the graces of the sacraments, the hope we have of heaven and resurrection. I'm not very old, but I have had a lot of grief in my life, a lot of family and friends that I have lost. Death is always unexpected, and already I've had a lot of tragedy. But as a priest at All Souls Day, we read off the names of those who have died in the last year. It's a heavy day for me as a priest, and every year it catches me off guard. I know a lot of those names that were read off. As I've only been a priest 7 years, and already I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of people I've accompanied at their last moments. So it's very real. It hits home. Again, even more so because I've lost dear family and friends. But friends, here's a little grace I received as I was kind of wrestling with that this last week. It's a real grace that I've lived into actually for the last few years. That the thought of eternity, the thought of our hope in God's salvation, does not contradict grief, the pain of loss. Especially because grief and pain is only the result of love. But holding those two in tension is so important. Hope and gratitude. To hold that along with pain and grief. That's love. Jesus extends his arm on the cross to remind us that that is love. It's not cute. It's not Hallmark. But it's so much more real. That same Lord is with us in the good times and in the bad, in sickness and in health. He helps us hold the tension of grief and gratitude if we allow him to. I have found a lot of strength through my anxiety by leaning into that. When we try to suppress the pain and grief, not healthy. The hope actually becomes watered down. Our hope becomes Hallmark. And it's not enough to get us through what still is yet to come. That's suppressing the pain and grief is just as bad as suppressing the hope and gratitude and only dwelling on grief and pain. It's sickening. And only with Christ can we hold the two in tension. If death is what we're all headed towards, there is something here with Christ that unites us profoundly, even more than marriage. That was kind of a grace I received at All Saints' Day, the day before All Souls last week. All Saints. It was one of those days where it was just a long and heavy day. A lot went on in the day. It's one of those days that I think a lot of parents feel, where that you just can't catch a breath. And you kind of experience the pain of not having the ability to control life. So I came to All Saints' Day just in need of encouragement. And I told the Lord that. I experienced something that day that I'm experiencing now, where I came to the pulpit and felt totally inadequate, totally unprepared, not prepared enough. I feel that now. But a grace I received on All Saints' Day was this. I looked out, and I thought what all of you think when you look at the people in the pews. I'm not alone. Okay, if we're honest, you don't normally think that. But All Saints' Day is reminding us that we are a part of a communion of saints that is enormous. We have books, huge books, listing hundreds and thousands of saints canonized by the church, famous men and women who had a massive impact in the world to bring salvation to sinners. But those are just the canonized famous ones. All Saints' Day is to recognize that there are even more unknown saints. Men and women who weren't famous, but lived saintly lives, who ministered to the people around them. And that's a powerful thought. And the communion of saints is messy. A lot of diversity amongst the saints. You have Saint Therese of Lisieux, who struggled, abstaining from fruit. What a hard life. Then you have Saint Vincent de Paul, who was a great preacher, and he was giving a lecture, a mission in a church. He's preaching outside of Mass, preaching and teaching, and these three drunk men come into the back of the church, and they're screaming obscenities and insulting the priests, the Catholic Church, and everyone inside. Once they leave, St. Vincent de Paul looks at the congregation. He says, "Excuse me, we're all done today. I'll see you tomorrow for the next talk." And he walks across the street to the bar where these guys are at, and he beats them. He has them in a brawl, and he was strong and angry, and he dominated, and he showed them that they were out of line. It's such a bizarre thing. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Maybe it was right. Maybe it was wrong. But the next day when he was preaching, he sees in the front row are three men with black and blue eyes. The saints are so diverse. They all have such different gifts. But we are a part of a real communion of saints through Jesus because of what Jesus has done. When I look at this congregation, I know something that I think you know too. We have some Republicans here. We have some Democrats here. We have some people who refuse to get involved in politics. We have some people who have gotten every single vaccination available, and we have people who hate the vaccine. We have people who have worn masks to this day, and we have people who never wore a mask. And you know, we are here together because there is someone greater than us that deserves our worship. We are united by something far greater than politics. And right now that we're in the midterm elections, it causes anxiety to anyone who cares. Because public policy is so important. Now that I oversee a school, it hits home. I'm amazed at how quickly changes in public policy affect the most innocent children among us. But friends, we're here because we know we're creatures. We're here to adore, and the Catechism says that adoration of God, worship of God, is simply recognizing that I am not God, that I am a creature, which means I am totally dependent on Him. Friends, we begin every single Mass remembering, calling to mind our sins. Sins are missing the mark. We humbly recognize every Sunday, every day that we go to Mass. Excuse me, let me say it this way. We suck at life. We're really bad at this thing. We are sinners. We miss the mark, no matter how much we try. That's why we're here, where we're united by our vulnerability, our neediness. And that union brings us into the open wounds of Jesus that are symbolized there in this crucifix, but made truly present in the Eucharist. Friends, I know that we must remember we are Catholic. That word means universal, which means that in the pews are people that are not in the same mindset as you. But we're united by our creaturely need for God's mercy, for His love, for His wisdom. We're trying our best. And if we're not, we should be. But try as we might, we never lose an ounce of our dependence on God and our need to worship Him in this Mass and every Mass. So allow me to leave you with one final thing about the Mass. We call it the sacrament of the Eucharist, which is a Greek word. It's the Greek word for gratitude or thanksgiving. The Church has asked us to pass on through the centuries the Eucharist because it is where we encounter the living God risen from the dead in His selfless gift to us under the appearance of bread and wine. But we call it the Eucharist, gratitude, because that is the most basic act of justice. Because God has given us life and every single good thing, including our will and our free choice, our strength, and whatever health we have. Because we're creatures, we recognize that. And so in the midst of of taking into serious account what is just in our country, we remember today that what is just at the base of society, of our human existence, is giving thanks to God. And giving thanks to God sets us free. It puts things in order. At night, I've had a lot of nights where I come home and I'm just beat. Even when I've had a good day, there are times that I'm just kind of sad because I didn't get to control things. And I do this exercise periodically. I'm not the best. I'm working on my discipline. But at night, when I actually take the time to call to mind blessings of the day and concretely give thanks to God for whatever I can think of, it cuts through that cloud. That's why the church says this in every Mass. And when I say every Mass, I don't just mean every Mass that you go to in your lifetime. I mean every Mass that's been said throughout the centuries. One of the oldest prayers in the Mass is this dialogue, what's called the preface to the Eucharistic prayer. I'm getting super technical here, but bear with me. The church says, Vere et dignum est, ecum et salutare. It is right and just, truly. At all times, it is our duty and our salvation, at every time, in all times, in all places, to give you thanks, Father. The church has gathered the Eucharist, and every single time to say it is our duty and our salvation to give thanks. Giving thanks to God puts everything back in order. It cuts through the shadow of the valley of death, and it puts us into right relationship with God. It is a simple practice, and the saints speak of it in abundance. St. Ignatius of Loyola talks about how ingratitude is the root of all sin. Here we are, united by God's mercy, by what He does for us. And that is the kind of union that can cut through all anxiety and will give us true union together and with Him for all eternity.